You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
All right, welcome. We are back with another Zod and Drea episode.
We are traveling.
Yeah, so we are traveling right now. We should be in Germany. I mean, we're doing this like a week ahead, so too bad for you. So just pretend we are there already. We're in Germany.
Wow, look at all
Woo!
this.
Look at all this stuff that we see on the
I think you're
train.
drinking beer,
Ooh,
which I can't wait. I hope you do drink some beer when you're there.
You realize I've been to Germany multiple times,
I know.
right? And I've never drank beer.
But this is with me.
And I don't care who you are.
Yes, you do.
Like, not at all. That's not gonna work. And I had beer in Germany, and it foamed up in my mouth. Didn't like the taste. I was like, nope, that's enough. So, obviously, we're going to be traveling. We're traveling right now. We're in Europe, and we're doing it. If you haven't already, make sure that you are checking out our YouTube page, which, of course, is youtube.com/ZodandDrea, where you can see our antics and what we are doing over in Europe on our road trip. Our road trip overseas. We got the European tour, the European trip.
Holiday Road. We should make our own theme song probably for that.
So, obviously, Holiday Road in Europe. We're going to have a good old time over there. Europe, Germany, and Amsterdam. So, if you haven't already, make sure you check it out. Also, we're going to be, if you haven't done it already, make sure you check out our Twitter, Facebook, and some of our other things like Snapchat and Instagram, where we have also updated everything, and you can see that at Zod and Drea.
Just the usual places, people. Nothing's changed.
Usual places. Nothing's changed. And, of course, if you haven't checked out last week's episode regarding White Fear of a Black and Brown Planet, make sure you do that because that was a really interesting chat, and we'd love to have your input on that.
And continue the input. Just because this is the next episode doesn't mean we don't want to continue your input on previous shows.
Nope. Like, comment. Go through them. Like, I mean, literally go through our entire ZodandDrea.com website. Comment. We will wind up seeing that on Facebook, and we'll see it everywhere else. So it'll be good to get other people's opinions as well.
We kind of talk about a lot of stuff.
All the time.
All right.
So this one's going to be a little bit lighter. This one's going to be a lot more fun, and we're going to talk about entertainment. Let's talk about Daredevil Season 3.
That was so great to
That
talk
was good.
about.
Yeah, so that was good. If you haven't seen it on Netflix already, make sure you do. Rest in peace to my man Stan Lee, but make sure you check that out.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about him. His
Stan Lee.
passing.
Politics. What can Democrats do to improve the party? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Now that there's been a blue wave that they had predicted, you know, as happens in a lot of midterms anyway, but let's see what winds up happening now. So let's be honest, Democrats, we're going to see what you can do to improve the party, especially here in Arizona. And of course, our final big 15-minute chat will be steps to building your own business or nonprofit, something that we are very aware of, and we would love to share some of our secrets with you as well in case you want to start something. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about, let's do Daredevil Season 3. Let's get right into it because I'm a Daredevil fan as into this series that is on Netflix. I love it.
Look, Matt Murdock is back. He is back, but in a way that I liked how they delved into his character. It's darker. This is a darker character.
Even darker than before.
Yeah,
He's
before,
already dark.
He used to be like, oh, should I be good? Should I be bad? I don't know. I want to defend my city, blah, blah, blah. So we had that internal conflict, right? But on this season, he's more like, forget this noise. I'm just going to be Daredevil. I'm no longer trying to be both personalities, both Matt Murdock. Did I say Matt Murdock?
You said math.
And he just dives into the Daredevil persona. But there's a catch. Because it turns out Daredevil is really not Daredevil. Or am I making that all up right now?
I don't know what the hell you're talking
Yeah.
about. All right, so we just saw the series, so I don't understand why she's making things up. So if you haven't seen the other two episodes, the other two seasons, you know, they did the introduction of Daredevil, his background story and everything else. Then the second season, they had him in his new outfit, which was cool. You know, the first season, he had battled Wilson Fisk. I can't remember what he did in the second. He was battling, what's his name? Punisher in the second season.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, he was battling Punisher. That's why the second season was so dope and brutal.
Those were great fight scenes.
Really, really great in his new outfit. But then what happened was they had combined Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Daredevil into the Defenders. And so, and Iron Fist. So they brought all four of them together in order to battle the Hand and everything else. And Stick was in it, and it was all cool. And Madame Gao, and a lot of fight scenes. But then, of course, a building fell on top of Daredevil. So you're trying to figure out what happened to him. The last thing he did was he told Danny Rand to take care of his city.
Right, but remember, the building collapsed while he was with his girl.
Right, so he was with Elektra. Finally, it took, God, how many times of him getting his ass beat before, she finally saw the way and said, hey, I do like you too. God, women are just like that.
We make you bleed for it,
I'm
really.
telling you. So finally he did. Now, obviously, there's a season 3, so the building fell on him, but he got away, and they show you how he got away, which is kind of plausible. Sort of. I mean, there literally would be water. Anyway, so he was beat, from the door, from the time you saw Matt Murdock in this season, which continued right after Defenders, the dude was beat up. All the way until he was...
This was not a pretty one.
He guy
literally was like the Daredevil.
Went through it. Like, he got beat up on everything. What I liked about the beginning of the season for this one was the fact that he was damaged. Like, you remember his ear? His ear was clogged up, so he couldn't... His skills were off.
Really off. Like, you didn't know if he was going to get him back for a minute.
Yeah, you didn't know if he was going to be able to be Daredevil. And really, to a point, he was pretty much getting back the whole time. Because then he was fighting the other dude. Bullseye is in this one, a new version of Bullseye that they had done. And that's why you're saying Daredevil's not Daredevil.
Right.
But it was a really interesting way of Matt trying to come back into the fray for, God, what, 10 episodes? Something like that, 13 episodes, I think.
It was a little slower in the beginning.
Yeah,
and
that's what they do. That's what they do.
A little slower. But, man, when the fight scenes came on, whoa, it was so good.
And what I liked about this one is they dove into the other characters' stories. Karen had a story. Like, she had a whole episode.
I had no idea about this chick.
Okay, Karen, it's like, oh, that's her story. Even Foggy, he had a little bit of a background with his family. Like, they introduced his family. And, of course, Matt's background, but even Bullseye's background. And, I mean, they really went in. And then, of course, Wilson Fisk is back. So Wilson Fisk had a huge part in this entire thing. He was a missed character, which was,
look,
he's
I
Kingpin.
love rooting for Fisk. I know he is a dirty SOB, but I do like rooting for him. Maybe it's the actor, because I do like the actor a lot.
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't like Vincent D'Onofrio?
I mean, he just plays him so well.
And he is Kingpin. He does a really great job at Kingpin. But if you haven't seen it, no spoilers.
That's what I'm trying not to do, because you guys have to see it. You
just have to see it. It's streaming on Netflix right now. No spoilers, but Punisher is not in it, okay? So if that's what you're going to be looking for, forget it. This is truly a Daredevil story, and I just loved it. I thought it was a really good story, really well told, and, to me, it was fun. It was brutal. And, I mean, even his background,
wow, it was
parental and everything else. It was wild. So if you haven't already, make sure you go check it out. Yeah. And but bad job canceling Luke Cage.
Oh, don't talk to me about that.
Jesus Christ. And even Iron Fist last season was good.
They finally created a good Iron Fist.
Finally, and you guys screw it all up. Anyway,
we'll see what happens when you go over to Disney streaming.
I swear, go over to Death Row.
Oh, that's another good series we saw, actually. that's for the next podcast.
Come to Death Row if you don't want anyone dancing in your videos. All right, Iron Fist and Luke Cage.
What was the next topic? I
All
completely
right,
forgot.
so next thing, what can Suge Knight? What can Democrats do to improve the party? So, there's been a blue wave. Like I said last episode, it's like a cascading stream. It was smooth. Took a while. First you thought they were down, then they came back, comeback kids, to the point where, in a lot of the races, it wound up turning like Arizona purple, wound up doing a lot for, this is what midterms do. It usually swings the other way. And, of course, Trump and a whole bunch of his lackeys and Republican lackeys wound up saying, what? The Dems were cheating.
Everything. If voter suppression, all of a sudden they're claiming voter suppression.
Yeah,
they're claiming fraud. Come on.
Literally, the Republicans actually partake in voter suppression. If you just do a search on redistricting and Republican, just have a ball at what they do.
No foot to stand on that.
Nothing.
None.
So then, of course, over in Georgia, we had Kemp, who was going against Stacey Abrams. We had them going, and we had DeSantis versus Gillum in Florida for governor's race. We had really two hardcore races that were going on, and the Republicans wound up getting it. But the way that they wound up doing it, Kemp, first of all, was Secretary of State,
right,
during his own election. So in other words, he controlled the elections while running for governor.
You can't. How can that not be a conflict of interest, right? I know that was the state laws, and they leave the state to give them the power on what to do with their local elections. But this was an obvious abuse of power.
The way things were, of course, then he was a big guy when he quit after the election was over.
Right when it was over, then he resigned. But there were calls and requests and demands for him to resign way before, and he was like, screw you guys, nope.
Nope, he didn't, because he was overseeing the elections. How do you oversee the elections of the one that, like...
Oh, and it happened to be in your favor? Oh, wow. How'd that happen? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, considering all the suppression he had in all the black areas, too, in Georgia. I mean, come on.
That still overcame those and
like,
showed up.
Seriously. So Abrams, I think, is looking into it a little bit more. She finally conceded, but she didn't really concede.
Right.
She didn't even call him the legitimate governor. She said that he is the legal governor.
But there's a lawsuit.
Same thing over in Florida with Gillum. Gillum was killing the game. I don't know why anybody, unless you're just an idiot, would ever vote for DeSantis. That dude was a little moron.
Obvious racist from the beginning.
From the door.
I mean, do you remember he even had commercials with him and his family and his daughter or his son?
Oh, God,
and he was
dressed in
building the wall. Giving bricks to his son to build a wall. Shut your mouth. Like, you are a complete
Straight
racist.
up. Now, Florida sucks already. You know, I don't care. Florida sucks already and has a whole pile of racists and self-loathing assholes. But my thing that I didn't understand was how Gillum would have been able to lose so badly to some of these people, because he was obviously the choice. This dude, and I hope he goes, either he or Beto, like either one of them, or Stacey, I hope they go nationwide. Because
yeah, can you imagine?
They are, all three of those people who lost were dynamic. Anybody who voted for Ted Cruz, DeSantis, or friggin' Kemp, please explain to me why. Why would they even be remotely anything that you would want in your Congress or as your governor?
How are they even comparable?
They aren't, except to like little Nazis. Like, why would you? How do you look at something that stupid and be like, you know what, that guy, hey, you know, he just looks like he would represent me. If he's going to cheat in his own race, then, anyway. So that's what went on over here. I wouldn't even answer the question, but I think the Democrats, in order to improve their own party, they need to look into themselves, because they are putting out, besides those two, those were awesome candidates. They put out some candidates that are kind of whack.
But remember, some of those candidates didn't even get support from the party
they didn't.
Not from the beginning. So the party really needs to look at themselves.
The party needs to raise money for the people that they want to put forth, and they need to have a serious discussion with themselves, and they need to stick with it. Stop pretending you're progressive. Stop pretending you are and actually be progressive.
And stop apologizing.
Please stop apologizing. Just be what you are.
Please listen carefully.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube?
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye.
Okay, we are back.
All right, we're back at it. So we're going to discuss steps to building your own business or nonprofit. So this is more of a step building for those who don't know how to do it, who want to do it. And we find that in order to have a little bit of financial independence and just take a risk on certain things, I think everybody should try something.
Try something. I mean, it was a dream of mine to want to have my own business. What it was, I didn't know. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to have my own record shop, right? Obviously, that wouldn't work now. It wouldn't be fiscally smart. But it was always something I looked into. And then myself and one of my best friends, at the time, Caroline Mallory, I could call her, we decided to create like a business together, which was like training and developments and public speaking. And then from there, when you and I met, looked at what could we create either together as partners or even individuals. But it it took a lot for me to really fully dive into it. When I was first doing some of my own businesses and contracting, it was just on the side, like maybe I'll take this seriously. I don't know. But then it wasn't until like you showed me really how to make this something that I could financially depend on. Then I threw myself into it and saw like, oh, this is possible. Like this is actually possible.
And what I did was back when I was 22, way back yonder, I had already been designing and graphic designing, but I decided I didn't like how some people's stuff looks, so I just, I was like, okay, well, I'll just start up a business. So I did research on it. It's like, oh, you got to get the papers to do this. So I had to go into Morristown and find like, this is so funny because you can almost do all this stuff online, but I had to go into Morristown in New Jersey, go and do a search for anyone else who may have had my name. They didn't have it, so after thinking of a name, and this is one of the things you should do, you should always think of what your business name is going to be. But even back then, this is back 96. This is 1996. Even back then, I was aware that I needed a name that was original enough. And what's funny is the way that I even came up with the name Redline Designs is weird because I was supposed to go in business with another guy who was a cartoonist. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, he had a really cool name, and I'm like, oh, good, we'll go with your name. It was like Ideal Inc. I'll never forget, it was Ideal Inc. I was like, okay, let's go with that, Ideal Inc. But then when we were about to go into business together, he was like, I kind of want to use the name for myself. I don't want to. I'm like, well, why? Well, and so it was like real iffy. So I'm like, I don't want to have a business partner that's going to wind up doing something that's iffy and just switch off that quickly. So I decided to break off from that and make my own. And so I wanted something like Ideal Inc. because the Ideal Inc. was cool because it could have been anything. But I wanted something at the time that I was going to do T-shirt designs because that's what I was doing a lot of, and but I wanted it generic enough that it could be anything. So that's when I came up with it being something designs, and then the girl I was dating at the time, I said red design. I wanted my favorite color, red designs, and then she said, well, what about line? I'm like, hey, I like it because it rhymes, red line designs. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, cool. So I wound up making that and went to Morristown, got the paperwork, and established myself as a business. Today, it's a little different where you can actually go to the Corporation Commission over here in Arizona and do a search online for your name to make sure nobody's taken up. So you don't have to actually go down there and look through a database to find that anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's what you did for Viaza. That's
right.
What you did.
And it's now flexible enough, like you said, where it can be one thing, we could take on something else then for Viaza. It's also something that I have my sister contracting with me too when need be, when we are taking on different projects. But it's like you said, it's flexible, and that's a question that you want to ask yourself then when you want to create your own business. Do you strictly want to do one thing? Is it a service? Is it a product? And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But looking down the road as far as what else could be done and diversifying yourself so that you could take on different trends or take on what the different needs are of your industry as it grows. And let's just face it, with this global economy, trends are changing constantly, tastes are changing constantly. So you want to look at what you create in your LLC that can be flexible and be fluid and can take on different things. What do you suggest?
I think that, yeah, but to make sure you have a clear frame of mind as to what you want to go into. That's what, that would be mine. I wouldn't say to be flexible because once you're locked in, you're locked in. Yeah, you're going to wind up getting a certain code that when you submit to the government, especially when you have to get your EIN, which is your employment identification number, with the government, and that's what you have to do when your business is legit, is there are codes as to, okay, it's going to be a service, and then it's going to be kind of like this type of service. So if it's going to wind up being that service, you can't wind up saying, hey, I'm going to go into the food industry and choose food industry for your EIN for your thing.
It's different,
and then all of a sudden, you're building computers. Mm-hmm. Then IRS is going to be like, what the hell are you doing?
But like if you said, like if you choose like food industry, then then you could do one day a Mexican restaurant. Maybe a few years later, then you're doing like, I don't know, gyros, something different.
I mean, you could, as long as you dissolve the business as such. It'd be a really bad marketing pitch, if it's called, Johnny's Tacos, and then all of a sudden you're doing euros,
Johnny's Euros and Tacos.
And some companies have done that. Otherwise, they've made subsidiaries under their companies, so you can have an umbrella of whatever it is, and then have a separate restaurant or business, and just make a different company. But then even where that comes into play is you can have a corporation. There's like an S corporation, C corporation, but there's an LLC, and that's what a lot of people have. So instead of the corporations, where you're just putting yourself in, you have a board of directors and things like that, which also shareholders, which also you can have for nonprofits. It's also nonprofits is having that type of a business. But if you're just starting up a business on your own, it's good to have an LLC. And you may hear everybody, oh, I have this at an LLC. And that's because it's limited liability company, which means if you're building up a whole bunch of money and you do whatever, but then let's say you're making wheelchairs for someone. It's like, oh, this is, Zodiac LLC because I'm making wheelchairs. And then somebody in my new Zodiac China-made wheelchair, like the wheel falls off and they fall down the stairs.
Because I'm popping wheelies in it.
That's it.
I am doing it.
And they fell down the stairs and now they sue. They can't sue me. They can sue the limited liability company. So go ahead and sue them as long as, I'm fine. That's fine. But, it sucks. But that's what an LLC is for. And that's one of the things it's for. If you ever notice, a lot of people get companies and LLCs in like Delaware and something because they don't pay taxes on it either.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Is that why there are a lot of financial companies that
a
are
lot
based
of
in
them
Delaware too?
because, yep, that's exactly it.
Credit card companies.
All you need is a P.O. box and you're straight, just wind up doing business there. So that's how some people get around taxes if they want to do that. But otherwise, it's a lot easier to do it right in your state. And here in Arizona, you can wind up going to the Corporation Commission office. And that's where you can do your research for the paperwork that you want to do, whether it's an LLC, whether it's a corporation, whatever it is you want to do, or a nonprofit, which is a corporation.
Right. Which, from what I've experienced, is that you really need to do, I find for myself, it was a lot more work in preparing my structure and the business plan than for the nonprofit versus my LLC.
Yeah, and they're almost similar as long as you know what you're getting into. So make a business plan no matter what. There's one that's really good that you can make one at I think it's smallbusiness.gov or something like that, or SBA.gov. I think it's the Small Business Association. And they give you the tools to make up a free what do you call it? A free
business plan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they may have changed the website. I think it looks pretty good.
It does look updated.
Yeah,
right now.
It looks really updated. That's nice. So if you do that, go in there, make up your new business plan. You're gonna be straight. As long as you have your plan and your, not just your immediate foreseeable future, but make sure you see the ones that are 5 and 10 year plan if you can. Because you want to know where you're going. You're starting somewhere, but you want to know where you're going. So if you start your own business that way, know where you're going. Same with the nonprofit, know where you're going. It's like, okay, this is what I want to do. How am I going to move it forward so that I can make it last?
And that's also the key, like you said, like just making it last, making it sustainable. Maybe with the flexibility comes into that, but no matter what, it's that clear vision, right? What was like for you, like the most craziest experience, and meaning crazy, like in your process when you started it, was there something that you were like, oh, I will never do that again, or I would warn people 10 times not to do that? Was there anything that you experienced when you created yours?
I mean, when I created Redline, I've had for 20-something years now, and it was about getting the clients, because the whole thing with the business is getting clients. Some people wind up getting clients and don't realize they're making a business. And it's just to get legit with the government. You have to pay taxes and everything, but trying to get cash all the time, that's cool if you can get away with it. But most of the time, you're gonna have to either hire people or you get checks. And to get a bank account, you're gonna need an EIN. You're gonna need at least a social security number, but you're gonna need certain information in order to even just get a bank account. And when people are writing checks, or they're like, oh, you know what, I want to give you a direct deposit, or you don't want to turn down money just because. It can't always only be just a cash business if you can help it. Some people get around that if they can use a Square or Cash App or something, but still you're going to need a bank. And it's better to have a bank in your company's name than in your name, because that's where the LLC winds up in play as well. Because if somebody wants to sue you, then anything that's in your Cash App or your Venmo, that can be someone else's in a split. But I haven't seen anything that was really weird, just, certain clients and stuff. But that you're going to get with any business. Nothing inside of the process that was weird. I guess the only thing was, doing our nonprofit, the one thing that was probably a little strange was how fast we got the 501c3.
Right, and especially in Arizona, from what we kept hearing from people, that it was going to take forever. It's going to take you at least 6 months to get this done. And even when we filed for it, that's what even the response we got back from the state was that expected to be approved in about 6 months. And it was actually a lot faster than that.
Yeah, it was a lot faster. It was only a few weeks. And I mean, like, only a few weeks. But we had a good time getting that, as well as getting it. Now, the one thing is, if you're going to start up a nonprofit and you get a 501c3, you had to be down the board. You can't endorse any candidates or anything. But the 501c4, you can. A 501c3 is a lot harder to get, even though ours was easy. Don't listen to how we got ours. Somehow we just got fluked in, and they were just generous and got it to us in like 4 weeks. But a 501c4 is easy to get, and you can get that online.
A lot of organizations do that. And, we know for electoral season, that was really something popular that a lot of organizations did. And, it has a means to an end. That's what its sole purpose is, right? But what I found more than anything is really getting down from the how can I say this? The tips that I've learned really quickly regarding the nonprofits that we created is simply just get a good accounting tool. And you set up a really good program for us, too.
Yeah. Otherwise, get a really good accountant.
Yeah. But make sure you put money aside for that. Because
Yeah.
there's going to be some changes happening, I guess, for taxes next year regarding those statuses. So you just don't want to mess with that, right? I'm not a tax person. I am very curious about financials, and that stuff does fascinate me. So that I don't mind. But when it comes to this could be used for a write-off, or don't use that for a write-off, I don't know jack about that. So
Yeah.
that's when you just need to give it up and get a good accountant, or get a good software program that has maybe accountant backup, maybe even a legal Zoom. I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say, if you can, to start up your business, find something that you really like. Okay, that's going to wind up being your biggest point no matter what. You're going to wind up finding out something that you can do, that you can make money at, that you're really good at. Make sure you go down to the county recorder's office, not the county recorder's, not look at me talking about voting stuff. Go to the Corporation Commission, get the paperwork that you want to start, whether it's an LLC, if it's by yourself. You can also go to the Secretary of State's office, and you can do things under your own name. So the way that works is, let's say you want to have a business because you want to open up a bank account, but you don't want to go through the LLC stuff. Now, this is a little bit more dangerous because if someone sues you, they're going to sue your name. But you can do things under your own name. So if your name is John Wilkinson, and you're like, okay, but I don't want people to write checks to John Wilkinson. I want them to write it to, Bubba Inc. You can go to the Secretary of State's, register Bubba Inc. as long as no one has that. And they will do a DBA, which is doing business as. So you can do business as. So it's almost like you can have a personal check, which is a half business check. So it's like a business checking account, but it would be under Bubba Inc. So it's almost like people can write either your name, John Wilkinson or whatever, or Bubba Inc., and wind up getting in the same place, and you can get money. So that's also a nice little shortcut. It's really quick, and it only costs about like $10. So that's one way you can also start a business. But at least you're starting a business. And if I were you, then I would then upgrade to an LLC. Now, an LLC can also cost about $35 unless you want to have it rushed. It's like $70, but do the $35 and you're good. You're just good money. And I mean, those are some of the tips that I would have.
Research about your state and all the laws. Research it.
Yeah, please do, because there's nothing like you going to jail just because you listen.
But wasn't going to the
It's so funny.
So yeah, like you said, it was a lighthearted conversation today. Hopefully you learned some stuff, and let us know about your adventures, or adventures, if you will, in looking into becoming a business owner.
Yeah, and if you want to do something like that, and you want to be legit, and you really, really do want to, just make sure you hit us up on ZodAndrea.com. Otherwise, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, wherever we are, just go ahead and ask us in the comments. We can try and get as much information as possible, because believe it or not, Zod Andrea is actually an LLC registered in Arizona. So, even though we're just having fun at a podcast, It's literally and legitimately a business.
And hey, if you want to help our business, please feel free to reach out too.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. We're always looking for a little bit of help. We haven't reached out financially like the way we should, but soon we will. And we're going to make sure we get back on our video tip too. So be on the lookout for some interviews. We want to make sure we get some of these people on film. All right?